Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Old Chinese Currency by Manly P. Hall, an article taken from Horizon, the Magazine of Useful and Intelligent Living, Volume 18, Number 1, Summer 1958. Old Chinese Currency by Manly P. Hall. In the last quarter of the 13th century, Sir Marco Polo, the Venetian traveller, spent a number of years in China and upon his return to Europe made a detailed record of his adventures. In the spirit of his time, Polo was accused of fabricating extravagant stories merely to entertain his readers. As a result, many of his findings, which might have contributed to the advancement of European institutions, were discredited or ignored. We are indebted to Marco Polo for a summary of the methods used by the Khans of Tartary at the time under consideration. The account given by Polo opens rather humorously. He observes that in the mint of the Grand Khan, a method for multiplying money was in common usage which exceeded the dreams of the European alchemists. Wealth was manufactured in a matter of hours in a most convenient manner. Bark was stripped from mulberry trees, and the inner rind of this bark was soaked in water. Later, it was beaten or pounded to a pulp, from which was made a kind of paper of a very dark color, sometimes almost black. When this paper was ready, it was cut into various pieces of money of different sizes, usually rectangular. The larger pieces were reserved for greater sums. This currency was made authentic with an elaborate ceremony which transformed each section into the real and actual equivalent of pure gold and silver. Inscriptions were placed or printed on the paper, special officials decorated it with their signatures and signets, and finally, the principal dignitary of the mint, equivalent to the treasurer, upon the authority of the emperor, placed the vermilion seal on the note. After this had been done, it circulated throughout the domains of the Grand Khan, and no person under peril of his life would refuse to accept it for payment of private or public debt. If, for any reason, a piece of this paper money became damaged or worn in handling, it could be returned to the mint and here, for a small fee, exchanged for a fresh note. Merchants and artisans desiring gold or silver for their trade could likewise go to the mint and secure such bullion as they needed. The men of the imperial army were paid with these notes, and their value was never questioned. Polo concludes that by this device, the Mongol rulers were able to command greater treasures than any other sovereign in the universe. This is all the more remarkable when we realize that in Europe no similar or equivalent device was known. Original banknotes of the earliest Chinese paper currency are preserved to us only through reproductions or restorations found in Chinese works on numismatics. Traditionally, there is a possibility that paper currency was in use as early as 650 AD, but no examples of the originals have so far been discovered. Even the more conservative students consider it likely, however, that by the 9th century AD, some such monetary device had at least limited circulation. Further research has revealed Chinese paper bank notes in various libraries and private collections, and often referred to as the earliest known, which were issued during the reign of the Emperor Hongwu, 1368 to 1398 AD. Incidentally, the earliest known European banknote was issued by the Bank of Stockholm about 300 years later. Most of the examples of the Hongwu notes, which technically belong to the Ming dynasty, have been found in graves and monuments. They have been discovered inside the hollow bodies of Buddhist images or secreted in tiles built into walls and foundations. At this time, the Chinese practiced a mortuary ritual which included the placing of treasures and symbolic objects in the tombs of the dead. Money was sometimes provided so that the soul in the afterlife might have means appropriate to its earthly station. An original banknote of the early Ming dynasty. The example of a Ming note in the PRS collection came from the tomb of a Mongol official. In view of the method of manufacture and the long time during which it was buried in the tomb, the note is in fair preservation, in fact better than most. It shows extensive folding, and the woodblock printing was crudely done or has deteriorated with age. The printing surface of our banknote is approximately 12.5 inches in height, 8.25 inches in width, and may have been subject to some shrinkage due to the materials. It is on mulberry fiber paper of a deep slate gray printed in black. There is a wide frame, ornamented with traditional dragons combined with foliate motifs. In the panel across the top is an inscription to the effect that this is a circulating government note of the Ming Empire. This thought is repeated in the formal inscriptions on each side of the upper panel, one stating that it is official currency of the Ming Empire and the other that it has the power of circulating forever and ever. The two large characters above the strings of cash indicate the denomination of the bill as 1 yuan. This is reaffirmed by the symbols below, which consist of 10 strings of coins, each representing 100 cash. Below this is another large panel, indicating that the Imperial Board of Revenue, having properly paid homage to the throne, has been given the imperial sanction to issue government notes for the Ming Empire, and that these notes shall have the same value as any other form of coinage. It is stated on the note that the penalty for counterfeiting is death, and the person who discovers and reveals the identity of the counterfeiter shall receive a reward, as well as the properties and goods of the counterfeiter. This information is followed by the reign name and the symbols for year, month, and day. It would appear that these should have been filled in, probably by hand, but in old specimens this does not seem to have been done. The note is then made valid by the impression of 2 large vermilion seals, in this case slightly over 3 inches square. On the reverse of the note, there is a smaller upright panel, approximately 6 by 4 inches. Within an ornamental border, the 2 characters representing denomination and the 10 strings of cash are repeated. In the upper blank half of the reverse is a smaller red seal, about 2.5 inches square. It would appear obvious that paper currency must depend upon stable government and strong public confidence in the state treasury. During the Ming dynasty, such confidence existed, but later the use of paper money in China was virtually discontinued. Many factors led to the ultimate failure of paper money among the Chinese. One, of course, was the change in the boundaries of the empire. Another was the fluctuation of economic fortunes. And still another, the inability to adjust the paper currency to emergencies in supply and demand. As soon as the mint was unable to transform the paper to metallic equivalent on demand, the banknotes became little better than ancient symbols. Had China been in contact with other countries or devised some means to increase its credit or expand the resources of the empire, it might have maintained its paper currency system. Thus it happened that China, the country that invented paper money, was unable to adapt the idea to its own peculiar and particular needs. Both the initial success and ultimate failure of paper money in China were bound up with the psychology of the people, which was in turn conditioned by centuries of unenlightened government and economic instability. For those who are interested in a comprehensive history of Chinese currency, we recommend certain old Chinese notes by Andrew McFarlane Davis. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.